Alright, so I'm going to switch things up a little bit with a completely not technical talk, and hopefully it's just a lot of fun, and that you'll learn something about something you maybe thought about before. So, for those of you who don't know, I'm Zyla. I'm a Mechie Aero. I don't even belong in this building. Actually, no, Glennon. We do. This is the Mechie floor. And I'm also a pilot. So this is I took a really unconventional journey to the skies for two main reasons, and one was because I couldn't afford to fly, and the other one was because I'm not a dude. So this is going to show you how to get your pilot's license, but also how to get around those obstacles. So for starters, there's two main paths you can choose. The first one is military. So you can join the military, and if you're competitive enough, you can get a role as a pilot. And the other one is general aviation. So just a civil pilot, and that is what I'm assuming most of you would be interested in, so that's what we're going to talk about today. So within general aviation, there are a lot of different levels of licenses you can get. Student is the ticket to everything else. So it's expired, but I had a student license, and it means you can solo an aircraft. A CFI has signed off that you are capable of flying an aircraft on your own, but you're not allowed to take passengers, and you're not allowed to fly at night. Sport, recreation, and recreational, no one ever talks about them. Don't even think about them, but they do exist. The most common type of license is a private pilot's license. And so to do that, you can fly for pleasure, you can fly at night, you can fly any four-seater top aircraft, six-seater, sorry. But you can never get paid to fly. So if you're interested in aerial photography or flying passengers for money, then you'll need a commercial license. And then so from there you can get your commercial, but that will not let you fly for the airliners. So that's your aerial photography, small transport, stuff like that. Flight instructor means you're licensed to certify others you're certified to have students solo, and you have to be FAA approved to teach students. And the last one is airline transport pilot, which means that you can fly commercial airliners. So as a college student, the most accessible license you can get is your private pilot's license. Really, really common, and you only have to be 17 years old. You only have to be 16 to solo for the first time. You have to pass a medical, but it's super easy. Even I passed it. Ground school, so the first thing you'll do is start your flight training. As soon as you start and you decide flight training is for you, enroll in ground school. You go through, depending on the ground school, a couple months of ground school at the same time as your flight lessons. Then you'll pass the FAA knowledge test. You only have to get a 70%. I saw a 17-year-old pass that on his 17th birthday with a 70%, and then took his check ride that day and got his license on his 17th birthday. And you'll need a minimum of 40 flight hours to complete your license. However, keep in mind that the average student takes somewhere between 60 and 80 hours. 40 is basically if you do it all in 1 month or 3 weeks, which isn't always the safest approach. And then you have to pass your check ride with an FAA inspector. That usually takes 4 or 5 hours, and they will grill you on everything you could possibly need to know. And then there's also several takeoff and landing requirements that you have to fill, but they're pretty small. So, what is the cost of getting your license? All those hours, one flight hour in a Cessna 150, which is a two-seater 1969 aircraft, is $150 an hour with an instructor. It's $100 an hour without an instructor. Aviation fuel costs $6.50 a gallon. So, flying is one of the most expensive things you can do, but by no means should you ever let that stop you. I have not paid for a single flight hour in my life. And that's just because, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. So if you have an extra $9,000 and you're really interested in flying, then definitely pay for your lessons and don't do what I did. But there is a way to get around this number. But don't let that scare you. I threw this quote up here because it's one of my favorites. I got hooked on flying when I was in middle school. There's a program called Young Eagles where they take under 18 students up for an intro flight, and 1 in 10 students they take up catches the bug and has to be a pilot. And so I happen to be one of those. It says Leonardo da Vinci maybe because there's no official documentation. He was the one that said it, but everyone says it's him, so you never know. All right. So what I did is I worked line crew for, yes?
No.
Oh, 5 minutes? Okay, cool. I worked line crew for a summer. So what is line crew? Line crew is all the little guys on the airport that run around fueling your plane, hanging your plane, washing, waxing, they're literally just your bitch. They're like the lowest of the low that you can be on an airfield. And so like airfield repairs and maintenance, we were the ones that would have to go out and change an airplane tire when it's like 50 degrees and pouring, or go fuel somebody in the middle of an airfield when it's 110 degrees. And this actually happened to me. I went to fuel some guy and I spilled a little on the wing and it boiled off instantly. Like it was just insta steam. Oh yeah, and then for me, I was the first girl they'd ever had, so I had to do all the cleaning, vacuuming, housekeeping, QuickBooks, and I had to serve all the pilots coffee, which was always fun. So these are a couple pictures of my work as a line crewman. Here, this was one of my first weeks on the job. I was fueling another aircraft. That's actually the same day. One of the guys I went to go fuel turned me away because no fucking way some chick is ever touching his aircraft. I kid you not, straight out of his mouth. And you can kind of see from the comments I guess you probably can't see them from there, the attitude in aviation towards women, which is very, very negative. If you think computer science is bad, I think, what are we at? 20%? 18%? At Case. 12%?
We're at 15.
Okay, 15.
And we're not.
All right, so computer science is 15% women. Aviation is 3%. And it's generally people who are a lot less educated formally, like in institutions, and so attitudes towards women get even worse from there. And then this is my last day on the job. Me and the other summer intern, we're not allowed to leave around a court, so we're holding signs that say "just fired" as we left for college, left for school. So my deal with the airfield was that 20 hours of work as a line crewman, and I would get 1 hour in the air. I worked 11 to 13-hour days, 5 days a week, plus 2 hours of commuting every single day for an entire summer, including weekends occasionally, if the weather was bad when I was there during the week. And it sounds awful. It honestly was kind of awful, but it was worth every single minute of it. You get to meet all sorts of horrible people, but all sorts of really, really amazing people who have stories beyond anything like any of us can imagine. And so after a summer of that, I was determined to solo in 2013, but I had to go back to school. So over winter break, I went back to interning, and on New Year's Eve, I soloed in a crosswind that I should not have soloed in, but I was super stubborn. Okay. So that's pretty much my experience with aviation. Since then, I've gotten to I went to Oshkosh this summer and got to pet all sorts of cool aircraft. I went to the Women in Aviation Conference in Dallas in March, and even though it's not something I'm pursuing for a career, it's still a really important part of who I am, and I've seen it transform a lot of lives in a lot of really cool ways. So these are a couple photos of just random things. Thunderbird, the Aeroshell team, there was a selfie contest at Oshkosh, and I didn't win with that. I was pretty sad. And this is Amelia Earhart's plane, which is Lockheed Vega. And then the guys at the airfield were always making me try to ride their Harley, so that's an image of that. Does anyone have any questions? Yes?
So you said that you let your license expire.
Yes.
So do you have to go back through all the flight hours?
I need to go get a check ride with a CFI, and they can sign off that I am ready to solo, which at this point I don't think I am. But it would take me a much faster time to get up to solo level than if I hadn't. But
So they're valid for 1 year?
90 days.
Oh.
Yeah, your solo is only valid for 90 days. To maintain a private pilot, you need to fly at least once you have to fly 4 times a year, quarterly. But you only have to get checked out by a CFI every couple years. Yes?
So if we wanted you to fly us to hackathons, how many more licenses would you have to get?
I would only need to get up to my private. However, to fly a jet to a hackathon and take everybody in this room, it would take me a little bit longer.
Question 2, do we have a budget to do
We're
this?
still working on it.
What? Oh, okay, yeah. So I was flying out of technically Massachusetts. It was the Massachusetts-New Hampshire border, which is actually, it was the poorest city in Massachusetts, so I got to fly for a teeny bit cheaper. It was also great because if I ever got lost trying to get back to my home airport, I would just look for the city that was burning down because it was worse than Cleveland. Like, it was always burning down. In Ohio, your license is going to be a lot cheaper. You could probably do it for $7,000, $6,000 total because fuel and flight instructor pay is a lot lower here.
That's it.
All right.